That kind of food suits someone like you. I'm done being married to you, so don't show up in front of me again.
My wife, Amanda, laughed out loud. At the wedding, all I had on my plate was a boiled egg, so I checked with the staff at the venue, and it was Amanda who told them to do so. Up until today, I had always tried to think about her feelings and worked hard to build a good relationship. But Amanda has shown no interest in making things work between us. If that's the case, our relationship is already over. I stood up and spoke to her in a detached tone. All right, I'll leave. I'll contact you later about what happens next. It's sad, but this is the only choice I have left. I walked out of the venue, but I knew there were things I needed to say. Imagining how Amanda might react, I pulled out my smartphone and sent a message. My name is Brian Jones. I'm in my 40s and work at a social welfare facility. My salary isn't very high, but I feel fulfilled knowing my work helps others. On top of that, I inherited a substantial amount of wealth from my parents, so I'm not struggling financially. My father used to tell me repeatedly, having money doesn't make you great. Your worth is determined by what you do and what you leave behind. He probably wanted to make sure I didn't end up leading a life dictated solely by money. Before he passed away, he gave me his inheritance and told me I could use it to start a business or pursue anything I wanted without worrying about finances. Although I never took on any major challenges, I've managed to focus on how I can contribute to society and work in my own way, thanks to his guidance. He passed away several years ago, but without his teachings, I might have been overwhelmed by the enormous inheritance. Without that inheritance, I probably couldn't afford to cover rent and groceries on my current salary, let alone live a peaceful life. Having financial stability while feeling accomplished at work makes me realize how fortunate I am. The gratitude I receive from my colleagues and the people we serve boosts my self-esteem and motivates me to keep going. While I'm content with my job, there's one thing that concerns me. My relationship with Amanda isn't great.
When are you coming home today? Well, not that it matters. I find it annoying to cook dinner for a man who doesn't even have a decent job.
Amanda said to me before I left for work. She never responds when I say, I'm off to work, but she always finds time to throw sarcastic comments my way. Sure, my salary isn't high, but I take pride in my work, knowing it's an important part of supporting society. We've been married for a few years, but Amanda has been like this ever since our wedding. When we were dating, she never showed this side of herself. The moment we got married, she completely changed. I feel sad about how things turned out, but I always tried to respond with a smile. I'll grab dinner outside. Sorry for being a bother. Amanda nodded with a satisfied look, sat down on the couch, and got absorbed in watching TV. How did it come to this? Can't we go back to the way things were before we got married? I don't think the issue lies with me, so I don't know what to do. If I had to guess why Amanda changed, it might have something to do with money. When we were dating, she was always kind and smiled constantly, but she often asked for brand name items or trips to expensive restaurants. I didn't mind because I wasn't financially struggling, and seeing her happy face brought me joy. I spent generously on her without hesitation. After we got married, I think she started to assume she could use my money freely. While I still manage my own bank account, she made me promise to transfer a significant amount to her account every month. Because of that, Amanda doesn't work and spends her days leisurely in my house. She sometimes goes on trips for several days, not bothering to come home. Even when I return home exhausted from work, the house is often messy. and I'm left to do all the cleaning and cooking myself. Sometimes, I even have to take care of Amanda when she comes home drunk. But I believe Amanda must have her own struggles that I can't understand. That's probably why she lashes out or acts cold toward me. Like everyone else, Amanda and I vowed to spend our lives together when we got married. Instead of focusing on her flaws, I decided to remind myself of her good sides and push away the negative feelings. After work that day, I wandered downtown to grab my dinner. Winter was in full swing, and the streets were brightly decorated for Christmas. Seeing couples smiling happily at each other reminded me of how Amanda and I used to be, and I couldn't help but smile a little. Wishing for their happiness as I walked, I suddenly noticed a familiar figure in the distance. Long, beautifully curled blonde hair. It looked just like Amanda. Amanda regularly goes to yoga, massages, spas, and saunas. Her figure hasn't changed much since her 20s. In fact, she seems even more polished now. I saw a woman in the distance who looked exactly like Amanda's figure. What surprised me wasn't just that. The woman was walking hand in hand with a tall, handsome-looking man, staying very close to him. There's no way it could be Amanda. I tried convincing myself otherwise, but the more I looked, the more that figure and profile looked exactly like hers. I tried to jog after them, but the crowd made it difficult to move forward. Before I knew it, I had completely lost sight of them. What am I even doing? I sighed to myself. There's no way Amanda would be out in town with another man. She's been struggling with her daily life, weighed down by her worries. Yet, I couldn't help but doubt her, even just a little. I felt disgusted with myself for thinking that way. I stepped into a diner I found by chance and forced down a tasteless meal. When I get home, Amanda will be waiting. That's what I told myself to keep going as I trudged back. But when I got home, Amanda wasn't there. She usually takes her designer suitcase whenever she leaves for a few days, so I was relieved to see it still in the house. She must have just gone out for a change of scenery. I picked up my phone and called her, but there was no answer. From experience, I knew it was best to leave her alone at times like this, so I focused on doing housework instead of overthinking. I took care of the piled-up laundry, picked up hair from the bathroom floor and hardwood, and cleaned up the living room, which still had the remnants of her last meal. I wanted the house to be spotless for her when Amanda came home, so I cleaned every corner thoroughly. Whenever she saw me cleaning, Amanda would often say in a cold tone, "Why not just hire a cleaning service? It's not like we're short on money." But I found satisfaction in doing the work myself. I occasionally hired professionals for things like AC maintenance, but I couldn't bring myself to outsource everyday cleaning. More importantly, hiring someone for that didn't align with how my father taught me to manage money wisely. As I cleaned, those conversations came to mind, and before I knew it, it was already late at night. It was clear Amanda wouldn't be coming home today. I wondered if she had found a place to rest, whether she was involved in any danger, and so on. But worrying wouldn't change anything. Though I struggled to fall asleep, I eventually drifted off. The next day, I searched for any sign of Amanda, but she still hadn't come back. It was the weekend and I had no work, so I hoped we might finally spend some time together, but that didn't seem likely. I checked my phone, but there were no messages from Amanda. I called her again and sent a text to check if she was okay. Around noon, my phone suddenly rang loudly. Seeing Amanda's name on the display, I quickly answered it. "Hello, Amanda? I was worried about you. Where are you right now?" I asked, and Amanda replied in a sleepy voice.
You don't need to worry about me. I'm not coming home this weekend, so I thought I'd let you know. Also, stop calling me. It's annoying.
I sighed internally at her words. I feared that if we didn't spend more time together as a couple, our relationship might come to an end. But I seemed to be the only one worried about that. Amanda clearly didn't feel the same. As I hesitated to respond, Amanda suddenly remembered something and continued.
Oh, by the way, Jason is getting married. They're planning a wedding and want me to attend. I told them it'd be easier to just send a big gift and skip the ceremony, but apparently that's not an option.
I was shocked she would say such a thing to her own brother, but hearing the news still made me genuinely happy, as if it were my own. Jason is getting married? That's wonderful. He's such a good man. I'm really happy for him. Jason is Amanda's younger brother. I've met him several times at family gatherings and our wedding. He's always been thoughtful and kind. Jason often apologized to me, saying, "I'm sorry my sister is so difficult. You must have a hard time." I'm sure Jason had his own frustrations as her brother. Unlike Amanda, Jason is quiet and not very assertive, but he's always considerate of others. It's no surprise that such a wonderful young man found someone special to marry. After ending the call with Amanda, I marked Jason's wedding date in my phone's calendar. From that moment on, I couldn't stop thinking about the wedding, even during work. I was that excited. Amanda, however, continued to be absent from home most days and remained distant. When I brought up the wedding, she still expressed reluctance about attending and even hinted at bailing last minute. Somehow, I convinced her to go with me, and we managed to attend Jason's wedding together. I was surprised by Amanda's attitude toward her brother's wedding, but I was just grateful we could make it to the day itself. The venue was a beautiful chapel, filled with photos and mementos from Jason and his partner, showcasing their close bond. Their vows were exchanged in front of many guests, and the ceremony went off without a hitch. I watched Jason with tears in my eyes, as if I were watching my own brother get married. Next was the reception. We moved to the reception hall, where Jason gave a heartfelt welcome speech. We toasted with champagne to celebrate the couple. As the reception started off on a pleasant note, something shocking happened at my table. While the other guests were being served a lavish Italian meal, a boiled egg was placed at my seat. The staff acted as if nothing was wrong, which made me wonder if this had been arranged beforehand. When I tried to call a staff member, Amanda grabbed my hand to stop me and spoke in a condescending tone.
That kind of food suits someone like you. I'm done being married to you, so don't ever show up in front of me again.
Amanda laughed loudly. In other words, Amanda was the one who instructed the venue to serve a boiled egg for my meal alone. Until today, I had always thought about her feelings and struggled to figure out how to build a better relationship. But Amanda had shown no intention of making things work between us. If that's the case, then our relationship is truly over. I stood up and spoke to Amanda in an emotionless tone. "All right, I'll leave. I'll contact you later about what comes next." As sad as it was, I had no other choice. I left the venue, knowing there were things I needed to address. Imagining how furious Amanda would become, I pulled out my phone and sent a message. After that, I walked home, staring blankly at the scenery. When I got home, the house I had shared with Amanda felt bigger than usual, even though it had only been a short time since she left. I emailed Amanda, asking her to pack her belongings within a week. During that time, I planned to stay at a nearby hotel. As I gathered the things I needed, my phone rang. The name displayed on the screen was, of course, Amanda.
What's with this arrogant tone in your email? Why should I have to move out? You're the one who should leave.
Amanda shouted so loudly that it almost hurt my ears, and her heavy breathing came through the phone as she continued ranting. Trying to stay calm, I replied evenly. Amanda, the house and all the furniture were mine long before we got married, so it doesn't make sense to divide them. While I remained composed, she continued yelling emotionally.
That logic won't fly. Even if I were to move out, you'd better make sure I get my fair share of the assets. Otherwise, you'd be breaking the law. Get your act together.
It was clear she thought she could pocket half the value of the house and land. If so, that was a selfish and unreasonable demand. To calm her down, I decided to respond in a way that seemed accommodating. Of course, we'll handle everything legally. If you're not satisfied, we can work through a lawyer to sort everything out properly. We'll make sure the division is fair and follows the law. Amanda seemed to finally accept my answer and started to calm down. Then suddenly, she laughed and began talking about her plans for her future.
I'm glad you said that. Actually, I've been wanting to spend my life with a wonderful man. To live as comfortably as possible, make sure the assets are divided properly.
With that, Amanda abruptly hung up. That wonderful man was undoubtedly the tall guy she had been walking arm in arm with downtown. So, the woman I had seen back then was indeed Amanda. Though I felt the sting of betrayal, I no longer felt any anger toward her. In the end, Amanda had only been after my money and saw no problem as long as her material desires were fulfilled. I had once fallen in love with her, so it was embarrassing to admit that I'd been drawn to someone like her. Still, I decided to see this as a blessing in disguise for my future. When I returned to the house a week later, all of Amanda's belongings were gone, but the furniture remained untouched. I had explicitly told her not to take anything, especially not without going through legal channels, and she had respected that agreement. I felt relieved knowing my father's precious antiques and artwork, which were displayed throughout the house, were safe. Losing them to Amanda would have been out of the question. Today was also the day Amanda had agreed to discuss the division of assets, so I waited at home for her arrival. Amanda showed up with Jason, her younger brother.
Let's get this over with. I've brought a lawyer to ensure everything is handled properly.
Amanda said that, gesturing for Jason to speak. Looking apologetic, Jason avoided eye contact at first, but eventually sat down and looked me in the eye.
I can't call you my brother-in-law anymore. Brian, I sincerely apologize for all the trouble Amanda has caused you. Please let me apologize as her brother.
Jason, who held a law degree, was the perfect choice for this situation in Amanda's eyes. But when he started with an apology to me, Amanda frowned and scolded him.
You don't need to apologize to him. You're here as a lawyer, so keep your personal feelings out of this.
Jason glared at Amanda briefly, then calmly opened his notebook and began speaking.
From what I understand, the two of you are in the process of divorcing and have differing views on the division of assets. Is that correct?
He then laid out a clear explanation of the legalities surrounding asset division. As I had expected, assets acquired before the marriage and inherited from parents were not subject to division. In other words, the house, the furniture, and my father's inheritance would remain mine and wouldn't go to Amanda. While I felt relieved, Amanda erupted in anger, spitting as she shouted.
That can't be right. Even if it was for a short time, we were married. And whose side are you on, anyway?
Hearing Amanda's absurd reasoning, Jason replied with clear frustration.
You brought me here as a lawyer, didn't you? From a legal standpoint, The assets must be divided this way. Otherwise, cases of marriage fraud would skyrocket. Besides, you're the one who told me to leave personal feelings out of this.
Confronted with Jason's logical argument, Amanda fell silent. Jason continued, addressing her directly.
On top of that, Amanda, you were secretly seeing another man while still married, weren't you? You'll also need to pay compensation for that. You have to take responsibility for your actions.
Amanda was speechless, and I spoke to her in a firm tone. I saw you walking arm in arm with that man a while ago. He's the one you're planning to start a new life with, right? I trusted you, and it was incredibly shocking. I've been transferring money to your account, but thinking that you used it for yourself and that man makes me furious. When I voiced my honest feelings, Amanda didn't reflect on her actions. Instead, she became enraged.
It seems like you're determined to paint me as the villain. Fine, but the assets acquired during our marriage will be divided fairly, right? Even with your pitiful salary, it should cover a few dinners.
Her rude comment infuriated me, but Jason calmly addressed her.
Are you serious? I know how much Brian has been transferring to your account every month. It's more than his salary. And you spent that money on yourself and your boyfriend, didn't you? Even so, you're trying to take more money through the division of assets. That's ridiculous.
At last, Amanda seemed to realize that instead of receiving money, she was the one who might owe compensation. Although she looked annoyed for a moment, she quickly put on a triumphant expression and said to me,
Fine, I'll just pay you the standard amount. I'm going to marry a wealthy, handsome man, so you're no longer my problem. But don't ever contact me again.
With that, Amanda grabbed her designer bag and walked out of the house. Left alone with Jason, he apologized to me again.
I'm sorry for how embarrassing Amanda has been. I suspected she might be causing trouble, but I never imagined it would be this bad. I even heard about what happened at the venue later. It's beyond words.
As Jason kept his head down, I smiled and said, Jason, you have nothing to apologize for. If anything, I'm sorry for making you feel uncomfortable at the wedding. I'm looking forward to finding a new chapter of happiness, and I hope you find yours too. Jason thanked me and then brought up something new. Apparently, Amanda had consulted him before today, and he had even met the man Amanda planned to marry. Jason had looked into the company name on the man's business card, only to find it didn't appear online. It was likely a fake business. When Jason asked Amanda if she might be getting scammed, she insisted that the man wasn't that kind of person. Jason, who shared Amanda's situation with me, sighed and said she probably won't learn her lesson unless she hits rock bottom. After apologizing on Amanda's behalf several more times, Jason left the house. Shortly after my divorce with Amanda was finalized, she remarried her new partner. But a few months later, she contacted me in a panic. She said she wanted to get back together with me. I had no intention of agreeing, but decided to hear her out. According to Amanda, her new husband had only been interested in her money. Amanda had used the money I provided to live lavishly and shower the man with gifts, which had made her appear wealthy to him. However, he had only been pretending to have money when they met. In reality, he was deeply in debt and, to make matters worse, already had a wife and children. Now, he was required to pay alimony to his ex-wife and faced a significant amount of financial liability. As I listened to Amanda's story over the phone with a detached attitude, she sobbed and said, "Can you take on my debts for me?" I firmly refused her request and have not contacted her since. She and her new partner are likely in the process of filing for bankruptcy and facing a harsh life ahead. They must have envisioned a life of luxury, but reality doesn't work that way. I hope they reflect on their choices and come to understand the value of earning money through hard work and contribution. As for me, I've started my own social welfare organization. Having worked in welfare before, I already found the field deeply fulfilling. But as an employee, I often felt limited. Budgets were tight and new ideas were hard to implement due to financial constraints. So I decided to take the plunge and start my own organization, pooling resources from private companies and government grants to bring my vision to life. There are still many things I don't know, and I've invested a significant portion of my own assets, so it's not without its worries. Even so, I feel more alive than ever before. I'm sure my father would be proud of the path I've taken. I've made a vow to keep living my life to the fullest, both for myself and for the betterment of society.